Toby Hendrickson was checking for background on cases involving a husband raping a wife. He was a legal assistant for a top-notch attorney. He was happy to find many cases that showed a husband could indeed rape a wife. Clients were coming and going at a steady pace. He looked over at Karen Strong, who had her desk in a corner. She was the prettiest woman he had ever seen, but he was too bashful to ask her out. Then he looked at Marcia Dunlop. She was wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants with walking shoes. He thought how she looked as if she didn't belong in an office at all, especially a law office. He worked for Tricia Talbert, Mary Smith, and Hillary Poston. They were the three leading attorneys in town. They were ruthless when they had someone on the witness stand and usually won their cases. The next day at the 8 o'clock staff meeting, Hillary brought up proper dress in the office. She said everyone should be properly dressed to impress clients with the firm's quality and efficiency. She said they needed a dress code. I am going to appoint a committee to come up with a dress code. Now I think it should be Tammy, Tanya, and Toby because all three are always impeccably dressed. Does anyone have any problem with those choices, or would anyone else like to be on the committee? There were no other takers, so she called it the 3T committee and told them they could remain after and start putting together a dress code. After the meeting, they started assembling one. Tammy took the lead and had Tanya write down the ideas. Toby didn't add much as he didn't know a lot about women's fashion. However, when they talked about footwear, he did add that he thought some type of heel should be worn. The three settled on 2-inch or higher heels. When they were done, Tanya made 3 copies of their proposal and they agreed to think it over and meet tomorrow right after the staff meeting. The next day after the staff meeting they met. They went over the list and agreed it did cover just about everything. The list read: 1. You shall wear a decent dress. 2. You shall wear heels 2-inch or higher. 3. You shall wear at least minimal makeup but suggest full makeup. 4. Your outfit shall be as feminine as possible. 5. There shall be no exceptions to this dress code. Then Tanya suggested they change Rule 1 to read a decent dress or skirt and blouse. Both the other two agreed to that. Tammy asked if both of the others could live with the new dress code. They both agreed. The next morning they presented their recommendations to the staff. It went through unanimously except for Maria, who said she would have to get some new clothes to comply with the dress code. With today being Thursday, it was suggested they put it into effect the following Monday. The next day before the meeting started, Karen told him she thought they did an excellent job on the dress code. He was ecstatic when she told him that. They had had only minimal conversations before. He had wanted to ask her for a date but was afraid to. Later, Maria came up to him and told him that the new dress code was going to cost her money. She said she would even up the score with all 3 of them somehow. He knew he was the only male in an office full of women, but this was the first time he had seen firsthand one who threatened someone else in the office. He was a little disconcerted about it, but passed it off as you can't please everyone. Monday morning at the staff meeting, Tricia remarked how nice everyone looked. Maria said, "You like how everyone looks, but you are overlooking the one who does not fit the dress code." Trish asked who wasn't complying with the dress code. Well, Toby isn't. The code does say there will be no exceptions, doesn't it? What do you mean? He is properly dressed for the office. The dress code clearly says a dress or skirt and blouse and as feminine as possible with makeup. I don't see where it says anywhere that he is exempt from it. If you are going to make an exception for him, then you have to make an exception for anyone else who comes under it. You have a point there. It was passed and he even voted in favor of it. The dress code was for the women in the office, not for me. Toby said. Hillary said, "The dress code really does not exempt him and is legally binding on all parties. Do we want to amend the code? Let's vote now to see if we want to amend it." A vote was taken, and by a vote of 7-5 it was voted to keep the code as it is. Maria said it was binding on everyone including Toby. She looked Toby square in the eye and said she was sorry, but he would have to go by the dress code. He said he wasn't able, he didn't even know what sizes he would need to get a different wardrobe. Trisha told him to meet her in her office right after the meeting. He thought she would overrule him having to abide by the dress code. He shot a dirty look at Maria and saw her sitting there with a smug look on her face. After the meeting, he went to Trisha's office. She told him to sit down and make himself comfortable. "I want you to know I agree with you that you should be exempt from the code, but you saw the staff doesn't think the code should be changed to exempt you, and I can't see any loopholes in it." "Can you see any?" "No, I can't, but I am not a lawyer. I really need this job and can't afford to lose it." "Then you will abide by the dress code." "I am truly sorry that you have to, but look at it as a learning experience. I think you always were dressed properly and looked very professional. I wish I could tell you that you could appear adequately feminine by sewing some lace on your suits, but the code distinctly says dresses or skirts and blouses. I don't know anything about women's clothes. How am I supposed to get something I know nothing about? Tammy and Tanya are the two who, in my opinion, dress the nicest, so I'll have one of them help you pick some clothes out for you." "Which one would you like to help you?" He thought about both of them. He thought about how Tammy always had something nice to say to him, and Tanya often asked him about all sorts of things and always had the longest conversations with him. He chose Tanya. Trish called Tanya into her office and asked her if she could help him pick out some clothes to comply with the dress code. She agreed and threw him a big smile. Trisha was on the phone for the next 15 minutes while Tanya talked to him, reassuring him that she would help in any way possible. Trish got done with the phone calls and told both of them things were all set. She said she had set up an open-ended account for him at Van Cresswell's store for the dresses and whatever else he would need, and at Walgreens for him to get breast forms and anything else he would need. She also said Trudy's beauty shop would help make him look more feminine so he wouldn't look so much like a man in a dress. She told them they could go right now and get it over with. On the way there, Tanya told him the more feminine he looked, the less chance he would have at getting hassled over being a man in a dress. She said it was the little things that made the difference. At Van Cresswell's they purchased 5 different outfits: jewelry, a watch, a purse and wallet set, and shoes for him to wear. She also helped him pick out some jewelry, telling him it took away from anyone looking too closely at him. The only problem was that it wasn't until he was in 4-inch heels that he started to walk like a woman with his rear swaying. They stopped at Walgreens and he got a beautiful pair of breast forms which Tanya told him she could glue on him so he wouldn't have to worry about having to deal with them. The clerk also suggested a gaff, which he also took. When they left, it was lunchtime and Tanya told him she would buy lunch for them. They ate at a family restaurant and were seated in a corner booth out of the way. On the way out, he heard one man say something about the queer in a dress. At Trudy's, Trudy herself worked on him. She said Trisha was one of her favorite customers and she would do such a good job no one would ever think of him as a man in a dress. As she worked, she did everything slowly, showing him how to apply everything, and she gave him little tips on how to achieve the right look. She chose colors that complemented and accented his complexion and facial features. When he left, he had shoulder-length curly hair in his color and his face was impeccably made up. His had pink fingernails that extended a 1/4 inch past his fingertips. He felt feminine and Tanya told him he was beautiful. She told him to drop her off at work so she could get her car and she would follow him home to help him get his breast forms just right. At his place, Tanya was amazed at how neat and tidy it was. She helped him get the breast forms glued on just right. Then she helped him figure out how to put on the gaff. Between them they got it down to a science. She was surprised at how large his tool was. She gave him a kiss on his cheek before she left and told him good luck tomorrow. The next morning he dressed in the light pink lace-trimmed dress with pink heels. When he checked himself in the bathroom mirror, he thought he looked more like a woman than a lot of women did. At work, all the women except Maria told him he looked fabulous. 3 of them told him they were jealous that he looked better than they did. He had more conversation with them than he had ever had before. He even told a very funny joke. He was amazed that even Karen had told him he looked just scrumptious, and asked who did his makeup. He told her Trudy had showed him how to apply everything and had picked what she called his colors. He told her she should go see Trudy even though he didn't think she needed it. There was no staff meeting as all 3 were in court this morning. He went to his desk and got busy. Maria came by him and with a sneer said, "You don't look like a Toby, you look like a Tabitha." When Trish saw him, she couldn't believe it was him. She told him she wanted to see him in her office. He sat opposite her and she was sitting thinking deeply. Finally she spoke, "I want you to know I admire what you are doing. It shows you truly want your job and you are definitely an asset to this organization. As a reward, I am authorizing a 10% raise in your salary. Now we have to talk about the bill for your changeover and clothes. How does it sound if we take $50 out of each paycheck until it is paid sound?" "That sounds all right. I do have money in savings so I can pay off the bill faster if you like." "That wouldn't be necessary. Now if anyone gives you any grief, just let me know. I do want to know about it." He told her about Maria and what she'd said. Trish admitted Maria had an attitude, and then a smile spread across her face. "As long as you look so feminine, why don't you take the name Tabitha? That will show Maria all she did was give you an idea for a new name." "I think you are right. So from now on I will be Tabitha. I don't like the idea of having to wear women's clothes, but if I have to keep this job, then that is what I will do. You are showing more strength than most men would. I knew when we hired you that you had a good head on your shoulders, and now you are showing me that you can handle anything." Trish announced that there would be a staff meeting at 2 p.m. At the meeting, she told the staff that her case only took the jury 15 minutes to find her client innocent. She said their background checks and digging into the facts were what made her look so great. "I have one more announcement to make. Inasmuch as Toby has to wear dresses, he has picked the name Tabitha to go with his new look. Let's all give a hand to Tabitha." They all clapped and he blushed. The meeting was over, and when he got back to his desk, Karen stopped and invited him to stop with a couple of the girls for a drink at Tony's bar. He accepted and thought about how Karen had said very little to him before. He got to work and was very happy to find exactly what he was looking for in a past practice listing. By quitting time, he was happy to see his hunch had paid off. At Tony's, he had a couple of sodas and was talking mostly to Tammy and Karen. Tammy told him she never thought the dress code would include him, but that he was taking it very well. "I wouldn't say I am taking it very well. I don't like the fact I have to wear this to keep my job. I need my job or I lose my car, it's that simple. I love my car and can't part with it. Well, I want you to know I admire what you are doing just the same." Karen added, "You really do look nice in that outfit. It is like it was made for you." "Thank you. I'm getting hungry. Would you like to get something to eat?" Karen agreed, and they decided to eat at 7 Angels Family Restaurant. They arrived, were seated, looked at the menu, and both decided to get the roast chicken with dressing special. Karen asked what he did in his free time. He told her he followed NASCAR and the NFL. He said his favorite driver was Matt Kenseth because he didn't put on airs and always seemed to be able to work his way up toward the front. He told her his favorite NFL teams were the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, and the Green Bay Packers. She asked why the Packers, and he said he liked them when he was a little kid and Vince Lombardi coached them. Now it was to watch Brett Favre to see if he could engineer another comeback. He asked her what she did in her spare time, and she told him she liked to cook, knit, and do crossword puzzles. He asked what her favorite cuisine was, and she said it was Italian. I imagine someone as pretty as you has a lot of dates. Actually, I haven't been on a date other than with the girls for over a year. I can't believe that. I did have a boyfriend. We went together for 3 years in high school. He was the quarterback of the football team and the pitcher for the baseball team. We went together after high school, then he thought he owned me. One night he slapped me and I told him I didn't want to see him anymore. He came and apologized and said it wouldn't happen again, and I took him back. Then it happened again and he came back and cried and I took him back. We were at a party and he did it again, and I told him if he ever slapped me again I was finished with him. He slapped me again and I walked away from him. I walked home 3 miles that night crying. Then I made myself a promise that I would never have to cry again over a man. I am sorry you got slapped. No one should ever slap someone else. You did the right thing there though. They continued to talk about all sorts of things and both were really enjoying themselves. When it came time for dessert, both laughed when they ordered the chocolate cream pie. In the parking lot, as they were saying goodbye, Karen said, I don't know what exactly, but there is something different about you. You are impressive with both how you are taking the dressing issue and also how you look at things. She gave him a kiss on his cheek and got into her car. He got into his Corvette Stingray and sat there for almost 5 minutes, not believing his luck to have impressed a woman as beautiful as Karen. The next morning he was singing as he left earlier than usual for work. He was the first to arrive and he carefully placed a small vase with 1 red rose in it on Karen's desk. He went to his desk and continued his research from yesterday. When the rest of the women arrived, they noticed immediately the rose on Karen's desk. Karen said she wasn't sure who left it, but she had a pretty good idea. After everyone settled down to work, she came by him and asked if he was the one. He said it was a thank you for the lovely evening last night. She told him he was too sweet. He had 7 cases to help Trisha prepare for her case. He knew she should win this one easily. He didn't have any other cases to work on, so he started to do some research on his own. Soon his printer was pumping out information steadily. Trisha was in court and told him it would be until mid-afternoon at least before she would be in her office. He sat for a while staring at Karen as she worked. Then he dropped his head and daydreamed about her. He was shaken out of his daydreams when Paula asked him if he was going to join them for a break. At break, Karen sat right next to him. The women all told him he looked great in his dusty rose dress. Maria even said it looked like the muted colors were his colors. After break, Maria came and asked if he had a few minutes to talk. He said he did, and she sat down, then took over 3 minutes to say anything. I told my mother how I stood up for myself because I don't like having to dress up. When I told her about how I made it so you had to wear a dress, she told me I was awful mean. She said I should be ashamed of myself. I want to tell you I am sorry I started the whole thing. I just broke up with my boyfriend and I guess I hate all men. You got caught up in my hate and for that I am sorry. I know you're sorry and I don't hold any grudge against you. In a way, this is the best thing to happen to me. I don't like having to wear dresses, but no one outside of here seems to think I am anything but a woman. For that I am thankful. You might have done me the biggest favor anyone has ever done for me, so don't feel bad about it. You are too good. I have dreaded having to have this talk with you all day, and you are so nice about it. Thank you for being so understanding." She left and he was smiling. You never know what can happen when the unexpected happens. If she only knew how instrumental she was in his getting to know Karen. He wondered why he'd been so afraid to ask her out before. He saw Trisha enter the office, and 10 minutes later she buzzed for him to come to her office. He grabbed the 2 folders and went into her office. She was looking at what she had assigned him to check out. "You did an excellent job here. I like it. This will make my arguments have merit. You know, when I told my 2 partners that I wanted you to be my main researcher, they agreed right away. They don't know how they missed the boat with you. I notice you are now taking your breaks with the girls now. Are any of them giving you any problems?" "No, they are all being really nice to me. Even Maria came and told me she was sorry she caused the change in my attire." "Really? That is a first. Maria is a headstrong woman. She has a temper and doesn't take anything from anyone. Is there anything I can do for you to make it easier?" "No, not right now. I am just amazed at how the girls are treating me. They are all so nice to me, even Maria. I am glad that it is going so smooth. You did notice that I voted for you to stay in your suits, didn't you?" "Yes, I know who voted which way, and I appreciate that you sided with me staying in men's clothes. I never gave it a thought when we were working on the dress code to make an exception for myself. I realize that, and I am super impressed at how you are handling it. Hopefully something good can come of it. Can I be honest with you? You have to promise not to say anything to anyone about what I am going to tell you." "I promise. You have my word." "Well, before, I imagined what it would be like to go out with Karen Strong, and now we have gone out, and intend to see each other some more. If it goes the way I would like it to go, we could get serious. Before, I was afraid to ask her out, but now I know her and she is one great person. I am happy for you and glad you made something positive out of all of this. Now, today is too soon and Mary is out of town, but I would say that by Monday I'll get a chance to talk to my partners and see if we can make the dress code voluntary and only a guideline recommended for the women in this organization. You are really special in ways that go beyond what I expect." He was back at his desk and Karen looked at him and wondered why he was smiling so wide. She went by his desk and asked him why he was so happy. He told her she would know Monday because it was to be a surprise. She asked if they were still going for supper after work. He said definitely they would. At supper he was still smiling and Karen was asking him what was so great that nothing could take the smile off of his face. "Would you still go with me if I wore men's clothes?" "Of course, I like you the person, not you the clothes." "Well, then I'll tell you. This afternoon Trisha told me I could wear my suits to work again." "What changed her mind?" "They made the dress code law and everyone has to go by it. I think she wants to make it so I can return to my suits and still have the women dress properly as she sees it. I have told her that I would rather be wearing my suits and she knows that it would be better to keep everyone happy, including me. I suggested they make it voluntary and she took it from there." "You surprise me. I would never have thought of that. I am getting used to seeing you in a dress and I do have to say you do look great in all of the dresses you've worn." "What size are they?" He told her and she was amazed that they were the same size. She told him she would buy the dresses from him if he didn't want them. He laughed and told her he would see. "Maria came and talked to me after she talked to you. She said you were so nice to her even though it was her that caused you to be in dresses. That was really kind of you. I would have thought you would have told her off and sent her away. Why were you so nice to her?" I'll tell you the truth. This whole week has been wonderful in its own way. When I first had the dress on in the office, you came over and talked to me and invited me to accompany you to Tony's. You never gave me the time of day before, and now we are together every night. So the way I see it, before I was afraid to talk to you and you didn't talk to me much, and now all of that has changed. You were afraid to talk to me. Why were you afraid to talk to me? You are so pretty and I didn't think I would have a chance with you. I am going to tell you something right now, and that is, I think I am in love with you. I know I am falling in love with you also. I have never known anyone who has the gentleness you have and still can maintain his manliness like you do. Tomorrow, how would you like to go for a drive to the zoo? If I can get all of this makeup off, I'll be wearing a shirt and jeans again. That sounds like fun. What time do you want to go? How does 10:30 sound? They continued talking, and the more they talked, the more each one realized that they had found the one they were looking for in life. When he got home, he washed as much makeup off as he could. He got just about everything off except for the fingernails. He didn't know how you got them off. But by the time he got in bed, he was a very happy man. Saturday morning, he took the top off his car and stowed it in the trunk. When he got to Karen's, he told her he got everything off except the fingernails. She said she had polish remover and he told her they were pre-colored. She said she had glue-on nails once, and maybe she still had the release agent. In her bathroom she found it, and soon the nails were coming off. They were laughing at the least little thing. Finally she had them all off and he breathed a sigh of relief. He kissed her and thanked her. When they got outside, she said she didn't know his car was a convertible. She had never ridden in a convertible before. As they drove the 40 miles to the zoo, she was delighted at how the wind blew through her hair. Her excitement carried over to him. They walked around the zoo holding hands and hugging frequently. Both of them had never known anyone who made them feel so happy and special. It was mid-afternoon before they left and headed back. As they approached town, Karen asked him if they could make a side trip. She said she would tell him where to turn. He followed her directions, and soon she told him to turn into a driveway of a ranch home. They were walking up to the front door and she told him it was where her parents lived. They were inside and she introduced him to her mother. Her mother warmly welcomed him and told him her husband was outside mowing the lawn. They sat and chatted about little things. Karen told her all about going to the zoo and animatedly told her about riding in a convertible. Her father came in and right away Toby knew he was going to like him. Her father was wearing a Green Bay No. 4 shirt. As soon as Toby said he really liked Brett Favre, her dad asked him to come and have a drink with him. They had a beer and discussed football and found they had a lot of the same likes and dislikes. Her dad's favorite NASCAR driver was Dale Earnhardt, Jr. While the two men were talking, Karen told her mother he was going to be the man she was going to marry. Her mother was delighted that she had finally found Mr. Right. Meanwhile, her father was asking how they met and what their relationship was. Toby told him right out that if she would marry him, he would be the happiest man in the world. Her father told him that she'd had some bad relations with men, and he didn't know if she was ready to marry or not. They then had a very interesting conversation about the last football season and what some of the teams had to do to improve this upcoming season. They ended up eating supper there, having chicken on the grill. Everyone was enjoying themselves. When Karen said Toby had just got out of dresses, her mother sympathized with him. He said it had its advantages and all of them laughed. After they left and he was dropping her off, she invited him in. He accepted and they sat on her love seat kissing and talking. They talked for a long time and finally she said she was tired. She invited him to spend the night and he readily accepted. She gave him one of her nightgowns to wear, and when in bed they kissed some more. There was a small amount of love talk, then they fell asleep in each other's arms. The next morning over breakfast, Karen asked, "Last night you could have taken advantage of me and you didn't, why?" "When my mother was dying, she made me promise to save myself for my wife, and I promised her I would. To me, the sexual act should be the ultimate act between two people. I am sorry, but for us to make love we would have to be married." "You don't have to be sorry for that. I think it is beautiful. It shows you have a lot of respect for your mother and all women. It's those sorts of things that tell me why I am falling in love with you. You are so sweet and you certainly are not demanding." They decided to spend the day at the beach, and all day he thought he had the prettiest woman there. He knew he was deeply in love with her. Monday morning he took extra time to get ready for work. He did his makeup and thought it looked great. He did add some extra foundation to his face to make his beard less noticeable. Trisha didn't have any court cases today, so she called him in her office to give him another assignment. She handed him the request with the outline of what she required. He glanced at it and knew it would be no problem. Then she surprised him. "I have talked to my partners about the dress code. We could not all three agree to change it to be only a guideline for the women. My partners think the fuss will blow over, and inasmuch as it isn't causing a great problem, it is going to stand. Also, so we can call it a settlement, we will pay for all the stuff you had to get to comply with the dress code. You do not have to pay us back for anything. That is not necessary. I can pay for the stuff. It wasn't the worst thing to ever happen to me." "Nonsense. We are going to pay for it. The amount can go under miscellaneous expenses. Now, it is time for the staff meeting. Let's go." At the staff meeting, Hillary announced that the dress code was to stay in place. She did say it has improved the overall look of all the staff, no exceptions. Maria asked if they could have a casual Friday, like so many other places. It was decided that it would be all right. Then Trisha said they all should appreciate what Tabitha had to give up to conform to the dress code, saying he was a definite asset to the company. He blushed at her compliment. Then she asked Karen to stop in her office right after the meeting. The meeting ended, and Karen was in Trisha's office. Trisha said, "I don't get involved in the employee's personal life, but when two people work in the same place and have a relationship, then it can affect their job performance. What are your feelings about Toby? He is a wonderful person. I really like him a lot. He is kind, understanding, and very respectful to me. Do you love him?" "Yes, I think I do love him very much." "Would you marry him if he asked you to?" "Oh yes. I know I would. I happen to know he feels the same way. Maybe all you two need is a push. You can go back to your desk now, and I would appreciate it if you didn't say anything to anyone, especially Toby, about what we've just talked about." Toby saw her come out of Trisha's office and figured that inasmuch as she did most of the research in child custody cases, Trisha had given her an assignment for a case. The next 2 weeks were really busy as they had 5 important cases to prepare for. Everyone was extremely busy and the time went fast. Toby and Karen saw each other every night and continued to grow closer and closer. The 3rd week things hit a slow period. On Wednesday afternoon, Tabitha was in Trisha's office and he finally got up the nerve to hand her some research he had done on his own. Trisha looked closely at the material. It showed companies that had forced employees to wear different clothing. One involved a restaurant where the owner had forced the busboy to wear the same apron the waitresses wore. Another involved a makeup company that required their employees to wear their products. The men sued as they only made women's cosmetics, and the company was fined $30,000 and made change their rule. There were 4 other cases just like that. I can't believe none of us ever thought about the law. I guess everyone had it in their head that we wanted the office staff to look presentable, that we overlooked the law. Now, I know I don't need my partner's agreement to change things, but I would like to tell them first before we make any announcements. Would it be all right if we made the announcement Friday? That way I can talk to Mary and Hillary and we can make the necessary adjustments in the dress code. Sure, that is all right. You know it hasn't been all bad. I am going with Karen and hopefully someday I will get the courage to ask her to marry me. You two are that close to each other. That's great. Karen is a great person and I know she deserves someone like you. I just have to thank you for being so understanding. You could sue us and I am sure you would get a decent settlement, and I know the publicity would affect our image in the community. I have no intention of suing you. I was raised in a small country village and no one sued anyone. If there was a difference of opinion, they worked it out and everyone helped everyone else. Trisha laughed and said, if people did that all of the time we would be out of business. They both enjoyed a laugh and Trisha thought about how nice he was. She wondered if she couldn't help him in some way. That night he told Karen about his meeting with Trisha. He told her everything except about where they talked about her. She told him he was amazing in how he had thought to research that. When he said hopefully he would be back in his suits by Monday, she said she was happy for him. The next afternoon Trisha called both Toby and Karen into her office. Neither one had any idea what was about to happen. I have talked to both of you and I have an idea. You both love each other and care for each other a lot. Now, I talked to my 2 partners and we decided to try something. First, Toby, you said you have no intention of suing us and we really appreciate that. The publicity from something like that would really hurt our business. So to keep this short, we have something for you. You can consider it a settlement if you will. She handed him a small box. Inside was a velvet-covered box. He opened it and saw 3 gorgeous rings in it. He knew one was an engagement ring and a woman's wedding ring. The 3rd ring he knew was a man's wedding ring. Trisha saw him get tears in his eyes. Now, is there anyone in this room you would like to share this gift with? If there is, I think you should do it without any further delay. He took the engagement ring and handed it to Karen, saying, "Will you be my wife? If you do, you will make me the happiest man in the world." She looked at it and put the engagement ring on her finger, saying, "It's beautiful and yes, I would be proud to be your wife." She gave him a big kiss and when they broke from it they both saw Trisha had tears in her eyes. Trisha said, "I know you two belong together. I just had to try to get you two to admit to each other that you each wanted the other for your life's partner. I am so glad for both of you." Both of them thanked her profusely and sat there with the biggest smiles they could manage. Trisha asked them if she could call a special staff meeting to announce their engagement. They agreed, and she told them to go into the staff meeting room and wait. 5 minutes later, everyone was in the staff meeting room. Trisha announced, "I have just come on some really fantastic news concerning 2 of our employees. Toby and Karen have just gotten engaged to be married. Let's give them a big hand." Both of them blushed as everyone stood up and clapped for them. After the meeting was over, everyone gave both Karen and Toby hugs and kisses to congratulate them. The next morning Toby brought 24 roses along to work. He set one vase with 12 roses on Karen's desk with a note thanking her for agreeing to be his wife, and the other dozen he set on Trisha's desk. When Karen saw it, she got tears in her eyes. When she settled down, he asked her if she wanted to sign the note for Trisha. The note read, "Thank you for all you have done for us." Karen agreed and told him that was one of the things she loved about him, how he treated others, how he always made it a point to thank someone for doing anything for him. 10 months later, they were married and everyone knew they would be together forever.